FM.
Burby's 99.5 FM. Kite Radio.
It is 13 hours 33 in Guyana, and you're listening to Kite Radio. It is time for elections and COVID-19 watch with senior journalist of Kite News, Leonard Gildarie, alongside his co-host, Dr. Yog Mahadeo. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon, dear Kevin Smith. Good afternoon, all. Good afternoon, Dr. Yog Mahadeo. You ready today, sir? Well, Yog is not ready. I think he had a very long night.
Oh, good afternoon, one and all. Yes, I am ready to rumble. It's weekend here already, Leonard.
What's the significance of that, Yog? Weekend, we've been working through all the weekends.
Well, why I like this weekend over and above any other weekend is yesterday Commissioner Vincent Alexander said by around the 8th, if not before, this recount will be finished. 8th is Monday. So this weekend heralds the last weekend of this recount process. Next weekend will be, maybe some people will be celebrating, some people will be having to take reconciliation of what transpired for a loss. Hopefully by next weekend we can have a declaration at least. But certainly, given Vincent Alexander's prediction yesterday, this weekend is the final weekend of the recount.
Well, absolutely. I was thinking maybe Monday they're going to be finished with the recount. I've given it a little longish thing. What we have right now, as of this morning, 242 boxes left for the entire process. Let's say we do 80, 8 3 24 to 40, 3 days. So today, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Let's give it one more day. It's Monday. So we supposed to be finished on Monday. Monday is going to be what date? Monday is going to be the 8th.
Monday is the 8th.
The 8th.
Yeah.
You're right on target with that. So let us get right into it. Yog, this morning, there is an issuance of a press statement for the European Union Election Observation Mission. They have presented a final report with regards to the March 2nd elections. And this is what they had to say. The EU OAM concluded that overall, the elections were competitive and contestants could campaign freely, even though the process took place in a deeply polarized environment. Legal uncertainty, unregulated political finance, biased state media, Yog, interesting, and lack of transparency in the administration of elections characterized the pre-election context. Voting and counting were well managed all over the country, as was the tabulation of results in 9 of Guyana's 10 regions. However, the integrity of the entire electoral process was seriously compromised by the non-transparent and non-credible tabulation of results in the largest and decisive Region 4 by senior GCOM officials acting in blatant violation of the law and the High Court orders issued in this regard. The EU OM offers 26 recommendations to improve future electoral processes. It's important that we understand what these people are saying. Big countries, including Spain, France, Britain, among others. These include 8 priority recommendations suggesting to review and consolidate the fragmented election legislation, launch a consultation process to overhaul the composition and functioning of GCOM, develop effective legislation to regulate political finance, foster transparency and accountability in online and offline campaigning, transform the state-owned media, into a genuine public service broadcaster, adopt clear written procedures for transmission and tabulation of election results, accompany any declaration of results by a simultaneous publication of detailed polling station results and digital copies of all statement of polls, and establish comprehensive election dispute resolution system. Very important, very hard-hitting there. They have held no words back, and they have basically criticized without pulling any punches there, GCOM. I want to say a good day to all across this beautiful country of ours, on the coastline, in the hinterland, wherever you are in Guyana. Good day to you. I hope that you would see that we have beautiful weather today. I want to say a hello, a good day to all of our people who have been joining us religiously over the last 90 days since we would have hit the road running on Elections Day, March the 2nd. We have taken not a stop. We've gone into it headlong. We're praying that everything works out, that cool heads, that mature heads would be with us as we head into the new week. Good day to you, Dr. Yog Mahadeo. I want to say welcome to the show once again. You have been a good partner of mine, and I want to say a couple of things here. We would have been receiving calls over the last couple of days, especially we coming on to the last lap. And people have been recommending, go a little tougher on our guests that we have here. A couple of things with regards to that. We are regulated, the radio, when it comes to the radio, and as long as we're live, by the Guyana National Broadcasting Authority. The other thing is that when we have guests onto our program, it does not matter which political divide that you are, whatever office that you hold. It is ethical, it is respectful that we treat our guests accordingly, and we are not going to deviate from that. So whether you're Vincent Alexander, whether you're Sez Gunraj, whether you're Leonard Craig, when you come here, we are going to ask you the questions. We cannot say that Yog Mahadeo is a liar by the things that he say, or respond particularly to question. The reason for that is that the people are not stupid in Guyana, and so they would be able to make the conclusions. Yog, good day, welcome, and over to you.
Thank you, Leonard. And yes, indeed, if the past 90 days would have been interesting, certainly the next week will be extremely important to our history. There are a couple of things I want to point out, Leonard. You're right. I mean, when we have guests on our show, like yesterday we had Mr. Craig, last night we had Mr. Alexander. And Mr. Alexander made certain statements last night that I have invited Mr. Sez Gunraj to see if he could avail himself to be on the room 592 tonight to discuss some of those things. Because remember, Leonard, and viewers and listeners, specifically, if you recall, we would be asking Mr. Vincent Alexander and Mr. Sez Gunraj that in your own capacity as Mr. Vincent Alexander, who is a commissioner, because we have to be appreciative that many times they cannot speak for and on behalf of the commission. That being said, though, last night was very interesting, wasn't it? Look, Vincent Alexander speaks in a particular way, and we need to read between the lines of what a gentleman has said. And one of the things I'll tell you that is very, very, very important that Mr. Alexander has not said but intimated to a potential court intervention.
I think that was the biggest story last evening.
That is huge. And, it speaks to not a court intervention or not a elections petition. Viewers would recall that in 1997 elections, I think it was, the courts sent, one of the political parties had the court to issue an injunction stopping the swearing in of then President Janet Jagan. So the court had intervened at the stage of a declaration or when it thought a declaration was not as yet made. So that was an interesting thing that he brought out yesterday, Leonard.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what do we expect in the next couple of days? I'm going to give you a few of my thinkings.
Yeah.
And then maybe Yoga, we could probably examine.
But stick a pin. Before you go to what we expect the next couple of days, there is another dimension to what he said yesterday. Many of viewers and listeners would not know that there is information that one of the political parties has already approached the courts.
Well, he did indicate
yes,
something.
So I asked him last night if he could confirm whether that is so. He did not throw it out of the window. What he said was that he cannot affirm, having heard the rumor, he cannot affirm whether that was so, because GCOM would not have been served with anything. He said, quote unquote, I have heard rumors, but do not know that GCOM has been served with any documents.
Is it a must that you go to court and give them notice of intentions to file something?
No, you will go to court to petition the court with your intention to file, or to ask the court for a petition the court for an injunction that will be what you call it to the other party, will be delivered and put in place by order of court. One would recall that Janet Jagan's presidency, Leonard, and I wish to say something in that stead. There's been a lot of political spin about the Janet Jagan's presidency and all the things. People have to remember our history. There was massive, well, not massive, but there was a large amount of constitutional change after the Janet Jagan presidency, not before. So a lot of the things that we are now arguing and we are seeing as if it's sacrosanct, because sometimes you post something on Facebook and people ask you, what about Janet Jagan? That was a different constitutional background in many ways. And also people need to realize that we are where we are because of a number of things. You cannot forget the Herdmanston Accord. When Guyana was under a slow fire, more fire campaign and a threat of burning the country down, and political parties were brought to the table by the same CARICOM, by Commonwealth and CARICOM, and everybody wanted to see peace in this country. And an accord, an agreement was brokered that looked at how elections will be managed and look at transparency and fairness and so forth. So the other thing too is the question as to whether the chairman of GCOM has to come out to you, Leonard, or come out to the public and say, I have decided and here is my declaration. There is no such thing as her having to make a public appearance to give that declaration at all. That declaration can be made in the privacy of the GCOM offices. Madam Chairman will, of course, have a casting vote. And I think tonight we will correct this. Her duty will be to inform the Chancellor, here is my decision as to who is the winner. But Leonard, there's a critical part therein. We must remember that in all of these processes, and one of the things I wish to bring out from the EU's report there, billions of dollars have been spent on an election that will last 106, if not more days. Those billions aside, hundreds of millions, if not billions, has been spent on election campaign. I want the Guyanese public to listen to me carefully. My brothers and sisters, if you and I, if we earn some money and we take it to the bank will ask you where you got this money from. In addition, if you go to the bank to say, I want to withdraw some money, the bank has a right to ask you what you plan to do with this money. And whoever you tender that money to will now have to go to the bank to say, I got it from you. With the billions spent on an election campaign, where did the political parties get their money from? What banks did it go through? What critical money laundering processes did it go through? And how much of state assets, state finances has been used? Now, the past is the past. But as a people, we have to ensure going forward, whoever is in government must not abuse state resources, and there needs to be campaign financing reform and full disclosure in this country.
And you're right, Yog, that is something that is very important. And let me draw a parallel to that. If you're in government, or let's say even if you're in opposition, and a particular business give you money, and they give you a significant money, and it does not appear anywhere, after you would have gotten into government and that company benefits from contract, the disclosures that come before, it's going to be pertinent to what happens afterwards. So we got to pay very close attention, because it could mean a number of things when it comes to procurement, when it comes to transparency, when it comes to accountability. More importantly, we have to know whether the money that the parties would have received have come from legal means. So there's a whole bunch of
Correct.
stuff that comes into play there. And you're very, very right, Yog. The question of using state resources has been dogging us for years. It has come under the People's Progressive Party, the use of state resources, using state media, and the people have spoken very clearly. There need to be reforms when it comes to using NCN, DPI, the Guyana Chronicle, and you could go on
Say
and
it
on.
out. Say it out. Say
Right.
it out.
No, no, no.
The Department of Putrid or the Department of Political Information. Look, under the PPP there was Gina. Gina did all kinds of magic using taxpayers' money, and then they changed it from Gina to Department of Political Information. Same putrid stuff they're spewing out every day. Then you have the RAG that is under the Master of Chronicle. All of those things, the people of this country, next month, we have to set the priorities for the next government, regardless of who is in office. Those priorities has to be declared and set by the people of Guyana.
Well, I don't know you come up with these things, truth trade and propaganda and the different. I believe you go to bed before you go to bed in the night, you decide, let me come and let me shock Gildarie out of his boots with these things. But let's go straight to the Kaichur News newspaper today, Friday, June the 5th. OAS, Organization of American States, say recount so far credible. Let me repeat that. OAS says recount so far credible. That's the top of the page. Guyana foots the bill for any oil spill disaster by ExxonMobil. The contract was signed by Raphael Trotman. So this is really, really shocking. Imagine we would have signed a bill that somebody's renting our backyard and they're digging for it, and then they take your little light bill that you have or your insurance, and you got to pay the insurance for what they're doing in the backyard. Am I stupid? Am I missing something there, Yog? Let us go on. Granger's place in Guyana's history at stake. There's the U.S. Congress members, 5 of them, wrote President David Granger, and it says that you have a wonderful opportunity to cement your place, a place where people remember you by. And if you do anything out of that, that's inference that your place in Guyana's history is under threat. GCOM supervisor refuses to note Mingo's inflation during the recount, and this is coming from TCI. That's one of the parties that would have participated in the elections. And we have the presidential candidate, Rhonda Lamb, would have been saying that she would have raised objections to a couple of things. And the GCOM folks there refuse to acknowledge it. So you're taking Gildarie's observation or complaint, but you're not taking Yog's. That is a serious issue because it could come back to haunt us. So very, very serious thing. Last lap, we have to pay attention. 24 now refute Top Cop's immigration report. I think there's a list of 172 persons that the Commissioner of Police would have sent to GCOM stating that they're out of the country. 24 persons are now on record stating that we were in Guyana. Whether they voted or not is another issue. Joseph Harmon is demanding an answer from GCOM today to ask GCOM to probably pronounce on the matter. 108 votes rejected from Ogle ballot box for the lack of stamp. Now this is, we know that we went into elections and there was a lot of things happening in Yog, but there were continuous training over the time for 108 persons. For their votes not to count, that is something that is indeed very shocking. Things happen during elections. We know that there's going to be votes which is going to be void for one reason or the other. It happens. Old folks, somebody who come out of the back dam and they went straight into the polling station, probably didn't pay attention. You would normally have, think about 2,000 every elections that it's not going to go anywhere. For a whole bunch, right, go ahead.
But let's discuss something because it's important. You mentioned just now that the 100 and I think you guys are now up to 14 or I think 24. persons that would have got 24 persons. Now remember, Vincent Alexander last night also said, and this is a call, I mean, the gentleman was quite open, and I think he has been very outspoken in that, in all the regards. He basically said, listen, having the newspaper say that 24 names are questionable, it means nothing to GCOM. Somebody needs to file a formal report to GCOM with regards to these 24 names. Now, public perception is one thing. Procedure, obviously, is something else. And GCOM has failed badly in these 2020 elections with following procedures, with their employees following procedures. We'll discuss those procedures just now. But it is important that the 172 names, Leonard, if 1, if 10, if 14, if 24, whatever it is, numbers are now thrown into the air to say these are questions, then you have to question the veracity of the list. And why I raise this? Mr. Leslie James is a respected senior, very, very senior member of the force. And therefore, he speaks with authority. And whatever Mr. James speaks of, Leonard, represents the credibility or lack of the entire police force and their documentation, their systems, and of course, whether they get it right or wrong. This is a litmus test as to what really is in the records of the police. So I think Mr. James, rather than respond the way he did to say if you're here illegally, I think he needs to take a hard look. I tell you why. When Mingo made his declaration, it came from a computer. They printed it out and put it in his hands. So he read a computer spreadsheet, a printed out sheet. He may not have known in his own mind or in his own heart or whatever it is, and I'm using the word may, Mingo may not have known that those numbers were inflated. He read a sheet. He didn't stop for a moment to think my entire integrity is on the line. I'm reading from a sheet. I have to trust the people who gave it to me. Similarly, a sheet may have been presented to the commissioner. It's up to him to stand by it or to take a step back and say, listen, guys, I'm going to go back and examine this thing. And do come out and say it is either right or there are problems with it. At this stage, you cannot hold hard and fast to it, Leonard. It shows the entire police force is on trial now in front of the public. Isn't it so?
Well, it is. I think, and he is a respected member of the police force. I've never seen him really out of the way. That being said, let me say this. People would go, this entire recount was configured in such a way that it has to be some kind of observation or objections. That much was said by Vincent Alexander last evening, Commissioner Vincent Alexander. So that being the case, how do you deal with it at a GCOM level? In the coming days, that is going to be the big question. That is going to be the situation that's going to be facing GCOM, that the coalition, which about 200,000 persons thereabouts would have gone with the coalition. Let's say they would be very interested to know what happened to those objections. So those figures that list that was sent by the Commissioner of Police to GCOM would raise serious questions if people are coming out and say that we were here. There's a flip side to that now. We were supposed to be maintaining records of persons who are leaving and coming into this country. Before you leave the airport, CGIA, and this is my little knowledge, you have to sign the immigration form, where you're going, where you're going to land, whatever it is, and you have to sign it. And you know that if you sign it, you're acknowledging that whatever information there is true and correct. So therefore, this thing is very, very simple. You go to the immigration records, those forms, you pull it if they have left the country. If not, then that list is on the question, which raises the next question. How did they come to the list, and what happens to that system that the immigration department has? So there's several sides to the story here, and as it develops. somebody would have to answer. At this point in time, it cannot be. The commissioner is saying very clearly, we believe in the system, and I stand by the figures that were given out. So
Leonard, a system is a system, garbage in, garbage out.
Well, that is exactly.
You cannot stand by a system that is manned by people. And I wish to point out something else here. Mr. James still has the time. He still has the time on his hands to come out maybe and to reassess the veracity of the list he would have provided to GCOM, because I figure, based on the information that we are getting, there are more, or there may be more names that will be submitted to him. But how can he now, with that backdrop, answer? And also, given, this is another thing we asked Mr. Alexander yesterday. I'm not so sure that we got an answer because we had many things thrown at him. That is, given that you have asked, GCOM has asked the source of immigration information for information, given that there are questions as to the truthfulness or the correctness of the information sent to GCOM from the Commissioner of Police, is it then that GCOM will now want to reconsider the tests of accuracy that those lists must go through? Mind you, the way that APNU+AFC came up with those numbers is another long story, because that was a fishing expedition and they just threw a hook and whatever you catch, you catch. And then they put it in a net and say, here, take these and go investigate it. That's as literal as it could be. The other thing too, Leonard, there has been a question that's been asked, and we asked it last night. If you are the GCOM agent, the GCOM officer in the recount center, and I am APNU+AFC, and I'm calling out serial, let's use Mr. Kisoon's number, serial number 157, and you say, ticked, there is no checks and balances that what you are saying is accurate. None. The system has to take whatever you said. The reason that is important, because of Mr. Mingo. Mr. Mingo clearly showed the world you cannot, and Mr. Flash Drive, there's been multiple instances. They have showed the world you should not trust us. Do not trust us to act in accordance with our procedures. And here is what else has happened. All the allegations raised by APNU+AFC has pointed serious fingers to the entire GCOM, that you cannot trust anything coming out of GCOM. Nada, zilch, nothing. So how then are we going to trust a man or woman who says, yes, it was ticked, or no, it's unticked?
Let me ask you a question, because I'm not too familiar with this part here. I can remember, or in the voting station, the polling station, on March the 2nd, several persons are sitting down. And so if you go in, Leonard Gildarie, Yog Mahadeo goes into that place there. They are going to say Leonard Gildarie, or whatever, you present your ID. Everybody has a folio with the photographs and so on. They draw a line or the ticket or so there. Where does that folio remain? In whose possession?
The folio remains. Remember, they're the officer in charge. And you raise a very important thing, because whenever you want, let's talk about those missing folios and missing poll books, and there's allegations of ballot boxes coming out this morning that only the ballots in the box, nothing else. So we got to talk about that a little bit. But those things are in the possession of the officer in charge. That officer in charge has to follow a protocol, put it in a particular pouch or in a particular box. They have to follow the procedure to ensure it gets down to the RO. The RO's responsibility is to ensure it gets down to the CEO, well, the secretariat, so to speak. So there are a couple of things that we need to be aware of. And you are right. That's one of the things, that if you're ticked off, if Leonard Gildarie walks into the polling station and he casts a vote, remember, the people look at your face, they check the folio. Yes, the picture is there. Every party agent has their own copy. They check. it's there. Yes, it's Leonard Gildarie. They'll ask you to display your fingers to ensure it is not inked, that you haven't voted already. Then they go through the rest of the procedure. You cast your ballot and so forth and so on. You come out. Now, all of the documents remain the property of GCOM under the careful watch of the person delegated by GCOM to be there and do his job, his or her job.
So my question to you, Yog, which is really what I want to get. The folios that you would be marking off that Gildarie or Yog went into that place, that would remain in one of those boxes that would
Yes.
eventually make its way to GCOM?
Yes, sir.
So that means, as at this point in time, to reinforce what you're saying there, the point that you would have brought up, is that the recount that is ongoing now, there's nothing in the possession of the party's representative other than what GCOM has to verify whether
Correct.
that person was ticked or not.
Correct.
So that in
And
itself-
remember, Leonard, you have to also protect the identity of the voter, which has gone to the skies in this election because it's been published all over the place, right? So here is the other question with a tick that is extremely important. Here is what APNU+AFC would have done in any one day. They walk into they open the box, started to the counting happened, the recount happened, sorry, and then APNU+AFC says, okay, I have 106 or I have 60 or whatever amount of serial numbers. I'm gonna call them out. You need to tell me whether they vote or not. So APNU, they say, don't know. They're fishing. So they call out in the one instance we would have heard 3 nights ago on room 592, 100 odd serial numbers, and the GCOM staff would have said that 6 of them were ticked. And then the person there said, okay, I am making an observation that those 6 could not have voted because they were not in the country. That's the process. So in other words, they throw a wide net, and whoever you catch, you catch.
Yes.
And then you say, this has to be it.
Yog, we have a Rhonda Lamb. How you doing, Rhonda?
I'm good. How are you?
Pretty good, my dear, and I thank you very much for joining us there from the Artichon Convention Center, TCI, the presidential candidate, and she has been in it since an early... Have you taken a day off, Rhonda?
No, I have not. I've been here every day from 8 a.m. until tabulation ends at 6:30.
Well, it's obvious that it's crunch time now, and we want to hear from you as one of the persons there. And we're going to have some other persons this evening, I think including Jerry Gavaya and the private sector, to tell us what they've been seeing. We're trying to bring everybody on so we could form some conclusions. So you're there today. It's day 31 of the recount. I think, based on my count, it's the 95th day also since March the 2nd, more than 3 months. Unbelievable. What are some of the thoughts going through your head, Ms. Lamb?
I can safely tell you that if someone had said to me 95 days ago that, I'd be sitting on the tail end of a national recount, which is historic in and of itself, I've probably laughed at them and said, absolutely not. But here we are. So it's been the word I like to use is surreal. I still can't believe this is happening.
Well, there's a story here that's on the front page of our Kaicha newspaper. GCOM supervisor refuses to note Mingo's inflation during the recount. TCA. I understand that you were very concerned because you raised an objection, an observation, and the GCOM commissioner refused, the supervisor refused to acknowledge. Could you tell us a little bit that and the circumstances that was surrounding that?
Now, as everyone has known, I was literally among the last party agents left on March 13th. One by one, persons got disgusted and they left. So what I was doing is we did some recordings as we came down the East Bank, up to that point.
Just an introduction there. You're talking March 13th. That was at the GCOM Secretariat, the second declaration.
Well, no, we were still at Ashman's. That was the morning because that was where the walkout started.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, whilst I would have had recordings for various boxes along the East Bank corridor, Georgetown more or less panned out in terms of, we didn't have that many. But when we started the East Coast boxes, I noticed the SORs that that we had painstakingly collected, going from schools to locations, those kinds of things, were not bearing out in those images and the spreadsheet that our IT guys had created for me from those SOPs. And so what I started to do was to, by this point, however, person started objecting to the numbers and they were walking out. So ultimately what happened at that point was the police and other GCOM officials realized that, the phones were out. And so they kept hovering over me. And I could not actively, because of course my phone will show that it's, actively recording.
Mm-hmm.
So what I started to do was to start to scribble on the spreadsheet I had and put down the numbers that were inconsistent. So whilst we had audio for the East Bank boxes, we did not have audio for the East Coast boxes because by then they were privy to what we were doing. So when the boxes, now that we've reached the East Coast, if you would remember, Shaz has been uploading that audio that we had with the verification images, those kinds of things. And so on and on, that's where we were at. But now that we came to here, I wanted to test the system because all the parties have been allowed to make their, observations, make all of the details they need, and these are being recorded. So I wanted it on record. But this is a box that was used by, Mr. Mingo to inflate the numbers and those aspects. And so when I brought the observation up that I would like it on record, the supervisor stepped out, went to the district coordinator to get all of the various aspects that they needed for, to see whether it could be recorded. When they came out, they said they were only dealing with the items found in the box. And therefore, our objection of this record of Mr. Mingo's falsification of numbers could not be patterned. And so that's where we're at. Multiple boxes have since shown up, similarly, where the numbers are now bearing out to what our image SOPs look like. But again, it's not being recorded because our objections are not being placed on those forms.
So would it be a conclusion from your party, the TCI, that there's a deliberate attempt to sideline the other parties and thus have the objections of the coalition?
I can safely say at this point that could be a conclusion that could be drawn. There seems to be a deliberate attempt. The words, the actions of Mr. Mingo are clouded, it's shrouded. The coalition does not speak about it. They will highlight a million things missing in a box, but they will never mention that these numbers are bearing out. So there is a systematic suppression, I believe, of this hiding of Mr. Mingo's actions based on what we're seeing.
Do you have any intentions to write the commission proper to see whether they could deal with this matter, to deliberate on the matter when the issues of observation comes up in a few days?
We have a list of things that we are going to write on. One of that is also, that point is also included in that list of things that we're going to write about. At this point, we are just ventilating and placing as much of the evidence that we have in the public domain so that this blatant attempt at changing numbers that we are seeing bearing out by the boxes and attempting to override and pretend it does not exist actually stays within the public domain and stays there so that people can see it for themselves.
Are you receiving any reports that what you've experienced there would it be playing out in other counting stations?
Yes, because just now I was speaking to one of the reps from ANOG, and over again, I know all day yesterday, they also raised those objections, and they were also refused as well. And in fact, ANOG, as far as I'm aware, has taken it. I saw that ANOG rep speaking to the CEO, things like that. But I've not been able to confirm any of the details. You'd have to speak directly to him,
I have with me here, my co-host, Dr. Yog Mahadeo. Yog?
Last night, Vincent Alexander would have said that he foresees that the recount would be complete by Monday latest. Do you agree with his predictions?
I were actually thinking Sunday, but what is going to happen is tabulation is usually a half day behind.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking that because of how the boxes are moving, unless there is a massive slowdown, and I've not seen that to say that there is, I believe that the last boxes will be counted on Sunday and then the last boxes tabulated on Monday.
Okay. Yeah, well, to his credit, he did say on or before the 8th. So the other question, though, what's your gut feel? Looking ahead for the next 4 days, what is your gut feel with regards to the declaration? The reason I ask you is Mr. Alexander intimated last night that there is a likelihood that there may be court action from one of the parties that would be questioning the declaration itself. What's your feel?
If looking at the history of elections in this country is anything to go by, I could pretty much guarantee you court action. What is interesting, though, is that even though the count itself and the tabulation process will end, let's say Monday evening latest, there is still that stretch out to the 13th, where by that point. So there's still going to be a week of uncertainty. And I believe that the court action will fall in between there. One, to either prevent the declaration from happening, or two, immediately if a declaration is made, there is going to be a court action. So either which way we're going to court. I've said to persons repeatedly that we are not a politically mature people, and we seek judicial solutions for political bravadoing.
And that's a good thing.
Well, thank you so much. And I know that, Shaz, I'd like to congratulate you guys. You have been very good in the way that you have been sharing numbers and putting it out there. Shaz has made a prediction, and I'm certainly looking forward to have further chats with you guys on your predictions.
Well, we crunched numbers. Shaz is very good at that aspect. We looked at the patterns from the LGs. We looked at the patterns of the previous SOPs that we have in our possession, as well as the ones that the PPP have made public. And the fact that to date, for nine regions, the SOPs have, the SORs have now bared out those SOPs minus a few votes here or there and things like that. So we're basing it
and so everything is within the margin of error.
Correct. So what we're doing is looking at those projections, looking at, physical SOPs, numbers that we would have seen and received, and we are basing, Shaz would have based his analysis on that. Now, unless some boxes show up to upset the whole apple cart, which, given the entire recount we've not seen, I believe, and it is a TCI contention, that, the numbers are going to be spot on in terms of that prediction.
Right. And especially given the known geographical areas that are now left to be counted.
Correct.
Rhonda, here's the other, this is not a question, I'm just making a general observation. In any other country, by now, if you take the US, for example, while they have their own electoral problem, but by now, one of the parties would have come out and conceded, because it's clear you can do the math any which way you can, but after all, we don't seem to be a nation that boasts of its math prowess where politics is concerned.
Like I said, for me, as much as we can predict where it will go, I would actually, I would like every ballot to be counted, every box to be opened, because what I like about this process is that GCOM has never been able to do an audit on itself. And so we have seen a number of weak areas. We've seen a number of areas that, leave room. They're questionable in terms of the follow-up of those standard operating procedures that POs and APOs and all of these people operate by. So I would like every single box opened and all of the contents examined. So as much as, you'd like to save us a few days of heartaches, I believe for strengthening GCOM, down to the last box, the last ballot. But ultimately as well, we're not going to get anybody conceding. They're just going to head straight to court.
Hmm. And Leonard, while we would have, and I guess we'll discuss after Ms. Slam goes. While we have all of these things to discuss, I just want to share this with everyone that we have had the count, the SOPs matter. We have had on in the first instance, Rhonda, everything failed at the tabulation on June on March 13th or whenever it was. And then we now have another set of tabulations going on. So, Guyanese, I'd like to introduce you to another word that I know would be of interest to everybody because Guyana probably will be the best example of the word fabulation.
I knew it was coming.
Fabulation is the act of inventing or relating false or fantastic tales, which we have seen some people do. Thank you, Rhonda.
Rhonda, just a quick question or maybe something that I want you to touch on. The OS, the EU, and then we would have seen congressmen would have given some warnings. I would want to say warnings to Guyana. Do you believe that GCOM staffers have an understanding or an appreciation of the seriousness of what their mandate is?
Listen, I have I've been in counting rooms, I've been in tabulation rooms. GCOM itself has to dance a very thin line. The entire body is so politicized that decisions ultimately, because you're going to have 3 on one side and 3 on the other, you are literally leaving process in one person's hands. And therefore, it doesn't matter which side of the coin that, that decision falls on, the other side will be upset. So we have a system whereby the politicization of the irony of this statement of the electoral body is a foregone conclusion as to how, it will play out. Every human has biases. Because of the nature of how GCOM is constituted, that's a tough question to answer. Because by its very nature, it is designed for partisanship, half and half, and then somebody in the middle.
By the very nature, it is fraudulent.
So, so is it a good time to name and shame these people who are stymieing the process?
Listen, if we want to truly heal as a nation, if we want to truly move forward, we have to develop systems where everyone feels included in the process. Whoever emerges as the winner of this, this recount and ultimately ends up being the president has a tough task ahead of literally putting themselves into positions whereby they have to lend a hand and outstretch a hand to the other side. We are moving into that realm whereby you cannot operate as a majority when you're, when the rest of, half of a nation, half of a population is upset with you and don't want you there. So whoever emerges out of this process, naming and shaming people at this point is actually, for me, it's going to be counterproductive. What I want on record is that these things happen and we have to face it. And in order to face it, we actually have to understand and stop operating like it never happened. And when it did.
Yes,
so for me, it's a healing process, which hopefully we were able to come to.
Yeah, I would I don't disagree with you. I think that yes, we need to find a way to reconcile, but I also strongly believe, Rhonda, that if you do the crime, you have to do the time. And in the case of us having to spend $90 billion in a time when we need not to have spent all of that much, it is a lot that somebody somewhere should be held accountable for many of the things in these elections, including the frauds committed early March.
Would your party, after this elections, Rhonda, be moving to make an appeal or make a request for an inquiry into elections 2020?
What we want, I think what we want more than anything else is the reformation of GCOM. This audit, because that's what it is really, has shown the number of flaws that GCOM has. And so rather than spending money in, in a CI or a COI into it, I just want it reformed. I want it removed from the political, realm that it exists in. I would like us to move towards the issues of ensuring that we clean up that list. We have biodata that even if we could move to biographics in terms of identifying votes and avoiding this ticking, and then this person didn't tick, but that one did. So my energies and TCI's energies will not be into a COI. TCI's energies will be into literally pushing for constitutional reform that offers, the pathway to certain things that we proposed during our campaign, as well as just moving to completely reform GCO.
Well, I want to say thank you. Any other thing you want to add, Rhonda?
I'm good. I urge Guyanese. The process is here. For us as TCI, the numbers are bearing out to what, we had in our possessions from before. And a lot of Guyanese are going to have to take a very hard look at themselves, their own prejudices, their own biases. And we're going to have to do some healing from this, that where I sit from right now, and, just listening to conversations and the attacks that have been placed on me and things like that, among other Guyanese. I don't know how we're going to do it, but it has to be done.
Well, the good thing, she's wearing two hats, Yog. She's a presidential candidate of the Citizen Initiative. She's also a teacher. So a teacher and lessons to be learned. So I want to thank you very much, dear Rhonda Lamb, presidential candidate of the Citizenship Initiative. Have a pleasant rest of the day, ma'am.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Yog, always a pleasure talking to that lady. She is one of the stars that would have emerged out of elections 2020. Very eloquent, very well qualified, very focused. You could see that she's dealing with the issues. And, I admire the fact that when we ask name and shame, that she says, let's look towards healing. This is the kind of conversation that Guyana should be having at this point in time. Leadership, these are the kind of things that we should be talking about. So,
of course, and reconciliation is very good, Leonard, but we have to remember that as a nation, unless we can hold politicians accountable for their actions when in office, we can never truly advance. Because if you do not hold people accountable, then it means the next generation coming up are going to feel, hey, it's okay to do these things. Across the world, we're seeing where governments are taking to court. I shared information, you and I discussed this 2 days ago, Leonard. In one of the countries, a chief justice was taken to court and had to return state assets to the state. This is after the incumbent lost elections. And so, the day is coming when we have to hold our politicians accountable, and the courts need to have a little bit more say in this process in terms of prosecuting them. I mean, how can you ever have a government control state asset recovery program that is run by a government to capture government people? It can never happen. Those are the paradoxes that are just political spins that is aimed at creating choruses, not at getting the truth.
Putting the rat towards the milk, or putting the cat towards the cheese. I don't know. But quickly to the front page, and we head straight into the lines, Yog. Front page of Kaiser News. Exxon's daily flaring equivalent to the destruction of 2,000 acres of forest per day. You know what's 2,000 acres, Yog? One acre is 6 house lots. 2,000 acres. I just want you to put it as bigger than Georgetown, definitely. Is it 2,000 acres? Is it about Georgetown size?
I would think so.
Yes, and this is coming from a conservationist. But there's also this interesting graph that Kaiser News has been bringing out. According the People's Progressive Party is leading by 7,000 votes with all the boxes that has been counted so far. However, they headed up the East Coast. Lots of votes to be tallied there within the next couple of days. And so let's see what happens. Yog, we're going to ask our people who've been joining us. We did promise them to give them as much airtime as possible for them to come calling in to us and tell us what is happening with COVID-19 across the nation. How are they coping? What is happening in their neighborhood? Of course, we want to hear about elections, and let us keep the discussion here away from racism. Let us keep it clean. Let us keep deal with the issues, and let us move this country forward. We need to have conversation that is mature and above board. 226-7453, 226-7453, or continue to WhatsApp us on 622-222, your messages, and we're going to read them as long as they fall within the guidelines, good taste, and it meets everybody there. And so we are going to think, in the meantime, Yog,
In the meantime, let me tell you this, that it seems like either Mr. Vincent Alexander did not get a memorandum from Mr. Harman, or Mr. Harman did not get a memorandum from Mr. Alexander, because Harman this morning, I believe, said that if persons are in Guyana and are on that list, they should contact the police to set the records straight.
who should they be contacting, Yog, on the correct circumstances?
I do not know that it is the citizen's duty to go and contact somebody. If the police records are wrong, the police needs to make that special effort to correct its records.
I don't know, dear. I'm home. I'm minding my business. I voted on March the 2nd, and all of a sudden there's a list that says I'm overseas. And then I have to go to the police. What's wrong with that picture?
Yeah, and the other thing too, I think, I can't remember the gentleman's name, but somebody made a very important point the other day, that if you are deemed to have been not in this country, and something, God forbid, goes wrong with you, what happens then? Where are the records? And what about your status as a human being in this country? Or, God forbid, a crime happens that involves your name, then so the permutations you could work out are very significant and could affect persons in a very great way.
Well, Yo could be in Spain, and then he's being reflected as still being in Guyana.
Correct.
There's a caller online? Yes. Good afternoon, caller. You on the air?
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon,
Like
sir.
I said before, if we think that this is going to a declaration, we're likely going to court again. But I'd like to make a couple of points, and one of them is this. If I am the commissioner of police, and I'm not saying who is right and who is wrong, and I produce 172 names with my signature attached to it and said that these people are not in the country, and 24-4 or one come forward and they were here, I would launch an investigation to prove that I was saying the truth, and if that person lied and they wasn't here, they will be placed before the court because they're placing the integrity of my office. That is me. Secondly, one of the things I listened to Ms. Lam just now, one of the problems that we have in Guyana, it's a real problem. The issue is this. I hold several hats in the jobs that I do, and many times people, because they assume we're friends or they know me, they could cause me to break the rules to suit them, and we get dismissed because I tell them friendship and my job is two different things. My political feeling and the way I feel about something and who I like is different compared to the office that we hold. Something is wrong with Guyana when that is not so. Because even if I am working at the state media, I can't see that you could make me go against my conscience and write and say something. It means that my conscience is not right. So that's something Guyanese have to look at. We keep blaming politicians, but most of the problems that happen in this country were orchestrated by politicians, but the tools used with Guyanese people. And Guyanese people need to understand the integrity of their personal decision is what matters. Thirdly, Exxon. I cannot understand, don't care who signed that deal, how I have to pay for your mistake. And when I say I am not talking to the government, it's the people of Guyana have to pay if oil spills out there. And I have a serious problem with that. GCOM also, fourthly, has to understand that this election had more than two parties. So the PPP and the APNU objections or queries are not more important than ANAB or any of these small parties. Because what they're doing in essence is frustrating these small parties to drop out of the race and leave the two of them. I listen to your comments out here. Thanks for doing what you're doing. You've been doing a good job, taking the criticisms as they come. But thank God that people like you have stepped up. And I thank your boss too, because if he didn't make this platform available, it wouldn't be there for us. And I personally, if nobody else in Guyana accepts and like it, I like it because I find that I'm able to analyze from all sides of the board what is right and what is wrong. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, dear caller. And I tell you that it's not going to stop. We're going to continue doing what we have to do. It is not about money. It's not about anything. It's about doing our duty towards this country here. With regards to Exxon, the sooner we understand that the assets, the resources of this country belong to all of us and we have a say, it's the better it would come to demanding our leaders to make the better deals. What we have there at Russell with the bauxite, what we have in the interior there with our gold, what we have with our manganese, what we have in our rivers, the fish, what we have out there with the oil, and eventually I think they're going to find oil onshore. We have a say, a very big say, and the politicians are the one who's supposed to carry out our wishes. When they do things that is contrary to that, that is not in the best interest of our people here, we have a very serious issue in that. And the biggest say that we could do is come places or come times like March the 2nd. Over to you, Yog.
Thank you. And indeed, the caller is right on the points he made. I just want to share this, Leonard. I can't wait for these elections to be done and over with, because what I'd like to do, Leonard, you and I, what we would like to do is dedicate our time in room 592 talking about the oil issues, talking about environmental issues, talking about poverty, talking about education, and getting on with life in Guyana. So there's so many things that we ought to be placing our focus and attention to that we're unable to, because politics just consumes everything presently. Also, we'd like to continue looking at the performance of whoever forms the government, don't we?
Well, absolutely. And let me tell you this. The next government, whether it's the incumbent, whether it's the People's Progressive Party that takes the place there, it's not going to be a walk in the park. It's not going to be a honeymoon. They're going to be right under the spotlight. And I'm being very positive here that we could get this process over with and done very quickly so we can move the people's business forward. There could be no middle ground on this. This has to be. And the sooner our politicians understand that this is where we want to be, and it's a must, not only because of COVID-19, but because of where the world is. They have to deliver, and they have to deliver government within a matter of weeks with a presidential candidate there. So there's another caller online. Yes. Good afternoon, caller. You're on the air. Yes, good afternoon, caller.
Hello?
Yes, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Yes, good afternoon. Kaiju Radio?
Yes, you're on air. You're on air.
Okay, very
Yes.
good. Congratulations to you gentlemen for having this wonderful program. I listen to it every day. It is very, very educating in terms of what is happening in COVID and the election. I would like to see this as soon as this recount finish. I would like to see GCOM do what is the right thing and declare the rightful winner, and whatever the all those queries that the APNU they bring up, let it go to the court and do election petition. I would like, because we've been over 3 months in this thing and we need to get this over with. People since before election, people's lives has been on hold, and then the COVID come in and we still being locked down in a sense, you know, the curfew and so on. Now, this, I noticed the past couple of days as the recount coming to close, the COVID, there is no cases. I'm very happy for that. There is no cases. I see while it was going on and in full swing, the case was going up very high. But now I notice it just stopped. That is very good. Before this recount was to take place, we heard about 30,000 masks, 60,000 masks on GCOM need, and how much thing they need, and how much things in place, and so forth. Now, school, these national grade 6 assignments with these children, so they say it's the 15 in school open, around the 15 for they go back and so on. I ain't hearing how much 1,000 masks these children got to get. I ain't hearing no about all these doctors who got to come and how much system got to put in place for these children protection. Now, these are children. These are not adults. These just 10, 11 years old children. Now, for me as a big person, wearing a mask on is very difficult. Now, when the school closed, I think it's only 1 or 2 kids we had, and they closed school. Now we have 150 kids. Well, let's say over 70-something recover. And you're going to open school back and put all these children's lives at risk without proper system and proper education in place when it comes to this COVID-19. I don't agree with it at all. Now, these children have to travel in bus. And look, these bus drivers and so on, not going to space them out in these buses because they cannot represent themselves. They're going to choke all them up. I don't know if you ever see what happened with these school buses. Pack them up. Now, these children's life is at risk and the family who wouldn't come home. I don't know who's going to be a place when they go to school. They say they're going to space them out and 6 feet apart. Who's going to watch these? These are children. And as I said earlier, 1 and 2 cases when school closed, and all the big fuss about this thing, and people are not adhering, and all of a sudden we come to an end. They realize the loss. When they realize it long, now is a different music playing. I would like you all to highlight these things more, and let's shed some light and let this government know that this is wrong, what they do. You know, they put certain things, I believe personally, they put certain things, we know the COVID is there, but they put certain things in place to benefit them. But they've run out of tricks. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you very much, dear sir, and you're so spot on. I could tell you right away there that we could remember 30,000 plus mass Yog that they would have needed for the recount exercise, and it became a talking point. Now we have the students, and we're not talking about that. Where are the priorities, Yog? I'm not sure, but the guy is so spot on with that.
Yep. And the gentleman has made a wide comments on a wide range of concerns and all, you know, circulating around how we look at children and how politics took precedence in terms of our planning and our projections. And while some of those projections might have been, but we took all of those considerations in order before starting the recount. It doesn't seem like we have taken those same kinds of considerations where our children are concerned. And this is something you and I have been speaking about over the past couple of days, Leonard. I keep saying, and I'm going to say it for the 3rd day on the run. 3rd day continuing, I'm going to say this. I'm not seeing a word coming out to talk about the children who are unable to sit with a mask on. There are children who are unable to accommodate wearing a mask because they have medical conditions, and these children have to write exams. We have children by their nature, they move around, so we know that the exam rooms are going to be, in terms of the distances apart. We know all of that. The order has been placed, but, consideration and care for everything else. And then, Leonard, you and I have to be concerned about the public transportation for examination time.
Well, I saw a minibus accident yesterday before we go to the lines again. It was yesterday or the day before. A minibus overtaken a truck and decided to pull it in front of the truck, and it was clipped by the truck, and the minibus ran straight into a car. And I said, oh my God, when you see it real life, then you realize the nonsense that we see on the road. But that goes on check what is happening with regards to the minibus drivers, and not only generally when it comes to the care of our people. So the man is so right, so spot on, that when you have children and you see they're so small and nobody's paying attention, what you believe they're going to do? For the kids, it might be a little fun, but it's a very serious thing. We have to continue paying attention. And so somebody would have to be looking on. Somebody would have to be at the school whenever they're dropping off these kids. The police would have to be on the roads. I've not seen too much of police on the roads now. I'm not sure where they are. I know they have been, there's another story, Yog. For 3 months now, the police have been in line. I think is in line is a term, meaning that they've been on call 24/7 because of the elections. It's not over with and done. And so they have been going through a lot. So while we've been talking about the nurses and the ambulance driver and the others who've been doing such a tremendous job, I want to say hats off to the police for staying the course, for doing what they can. So we understand. We understand that very clearly. We've been seeing it. There's a caller in line.
Yeah, and don't forget while the call is coming on that we're also talking about the classes for the students too, right? Not only exams, but them attending school and having classes ongoing.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Caller in line.
Yes,
Yes,
backing
good
up what that caller said.
Yes,
One
sir.
of the things is that they said that you have to go to school from the 15th. I saw what the GTU said. They said that the chair must walk with the lunch. They didn't say that nobody's providing lunch for them. They also said that when you get there, they'll provide transportation for you to go home, which is a lot of crap. Now, I understand the curriculum and I understand what it is to write the grade 6 exam. It is very important to have the whole curriculum and understand it because when the tests come up, there's no way on God's earth, except for exceptionally bright children, is going to be from the 15th to the 30th, going to be able to cram and understand all of that. They were out of school from since March. Whoever came up with this plan, somehow it is looking political. If we look at a number of things, this curfew has not been extended for a month anymore. It's extended to the 17th. Schools, right away the exam, class school opening by the 15th, a day before the declarations, which is going to cause fear in some parents of sending the child not knowing what will be the reactions based upon whatever declarations are given. Everything seems to be too political, and that problem is it's not the chief education officer making a decision. It's not the chief medical officer making a decision. It is not no PS from any ministry making a decision. And up to now, that form that you tell people to fill up, many people have filled it up, and not a word has come back. Nobody has given them anything. Not even say, yes, next week you're going to get something. Nothing.
Are you talking about the form with the CDC?
Yes, persistent. They haven't answered anything. All they said is that we received your form. They haven't said, well, you're going to get X or you're not going to get X or anything. The point I'm making is that somehow, somewhere along the line, if this is not political, well, then something is wrong. And I am very smart, so I don't think it's not political. At the end of the day, everything has stalled since this count is showing a particular end game. And to tell me that in the 4 days that there's no new cases, that would be good in my heart, and I would love that to be true. But I don't believe it's true. You guaranteeing between now and Sunday, you can see the rise in numbers. I'm saying this again. I'm saying it to all politicians. I was sad over the years on the PPP and how they operated, and I've been sad on this approach. I'm one person in this country said that I can die in Guyana. But I'm telling you, every day, I'd rather go and live somewhere else where I am an alien to live in a place like this where all our politicians keep using their people. Now you're using our kids. There is no excuse. The Ameringan children in the village, the people talk about it and not a word. Nobody responds to what they said up to now. How are they going to be prepared? How are they prepared? Some of them have to travel from Anaputa back out to the dorm, which is 90 miles, where there's restrictions still in those areas because that is Region 9. And you're saying to me that we're still going ahead of this and nobody has said anything to address this. I understand CXC and CAPE. Those children do SBAs and they should be prepared because they're a little bit older. But 10-year-old and 11-year-old, you could tell me when I was a 10-year-old to stay 6 feet away from my friends. You got to be joking. It was never possible. Thank you very much. Let's see comments off here.
Thank you very much. And let me go straight into it. I did promise you, and we did promise you, Yog and myself, to get hold of the official gazette with regards to the COVID-19 special measures when it comes to getting these students into school. And on top of that, what they did indicate here, Yog, bear with me because how it is on this phone here. It says that school national examination during the period of 8th of June to 15th of August, schools will be reopened to facilitate the preparation for and the sitting of the national examinations. This is grade 6, CAPE, and CSEC. In order for the preparation of national examination, face-to-face contact between the teachers and students is permitted at their respective school, but classes shall not be held every day. The seating arrangement for classes under paragraph 2, a national examination permit only 15 students in each classroom or examination room at a time, sitting at least 6 feet apart. They say the measures to prevent the spread of the COVID-19. Schools should have the appropriate sanitation stations, including water supply and soap and bins with cover. They said all schools should have designated sick bay quarantine area that's well ventilated with first aid kits and PPEs, that's protective gears. Designated waiting areas shall be made available for students to remain between their arrival at school and when they are directed to the examination rooms and classrooms. All schools shall have adequate sanitation supplies, bleach, soap powder. There should be signage and marking indicating physical distancing on the floor. Let me see. In order to maintain physical distancing between invigilators and students, the examination rooms shall be prepared and test papers shall be placed on the table before the commencement of all examinations. All candidates shall wear a face mask before entering into the school's compound. And maybe that's something that you would want to touch on. But it says, persons entering the school's compound shall wash their hands, available soap. The temperature of all school staff and students shall be checked at the entrance of the examination center. It is advised that a medical practitioner from the school's community health center be present at each examination center to facilitate the checking of temperatures. Anyone who exhibits a temperature greater than 100 degrees Fahrenheit or greater than 38 degrees Celsius shall promptly be isolated in a sick bay. All cleaners shall be trained in infection prevention and control practices. Cleaning shall be done before the commencement of daily sessions during the break club between lunch and the afternoon sessions, and at the closure of the day, and shall include frequently touched surfaces, including doorknobs, tabletops, chairs, gates, sink knobs, toilet seat and handles. With regards to after school, it says at the end of classes or examination, parents and guardians shall pick up their children promptly from school. Students who live outside due to the school's catchment area shall remain in the classroom or examination room to await pickup. With regards to the food, which was raised by the gentleman, the meal shall be provided to students who are beneficiaries of the hot meal program. Transportation to hinterland region. In order to facilitate the transportation of examination to the hinterland region, the following flights, I think they would have approved several flights, including, I think it's, 9 flights there, and I think it's about 18 here. And these measures will prevail until such time that it expires. That's basically it, Yog. So, any questions, anything that you see there that would touch you?
As I said before, we have to be careful with reading the document because having the documents in place, I mean, Leonard, they have documents about public transport. Is it being enforced and is it being followed? So I am very concerned for the welfare of our children that would have to join public transportation to get to school. And, if the child has to be, I have a hard time thinking that a child who has asthma, would have to be forced to wear a mask. And I'm not saying it's wrong. Masks are important and we support it, but we need to cater for everyone. And I'm not sure that the right kind of strategic thinking has been applied to this.
Absolutely. And don't forget that the Amerindian People's Association is deeply worried with the students in the hinterland, thousands of them, and the readiness to write any exams at this point in time, whether it's CAPE, CSEC, or whatever it is. The gentleman not too long ago would have raised that issue. They're saying definitely we have to relook at it. I think the Ministry of Education, the GTU, they're supposed to be making some kind of statement that they'll be waiting on their final position as to whether they would endorse or not.
Correct. And Leonard, don't forget. I mean, let's be very clear here. Let's take politics out of it. I know it's election season, and I know everybody has their opinion depending on which side you're backing about the politicians in office. But let's take a step back. It's easy to criticize. What I'm hoping that the authority could gather all the criticisms and all the suggestions and all the concerns that are coming from all sides, put it together, and very quickly come up with a new plan that they will be proud of, because people will be happy with it. You can't have, nothing is going to please everyone, but at least it should show an accommodation for our main concerns. And one has to also be concerned for the teachers and their well-being and the stresses that everyone will go through. I mean, Leonard, these are children, and it sounds like a joke. What happens if a child sneezes, even though he has a mask on, or coughs in a classroom with a mask on? I mean, children are brutal too, So it's not going to be an easy time the next couple of weeks, during this period coming up.
Absolutely. And so somebody is texting us, good afternoon, guys. I would like to know if you guys have any information on the whereabouts of some of the poll books. It is my understanding that some of the presiding officers give the poll books to the returning officers. Why is it that GCOM not retrieving these books from the ROs? Is it deliberate? Well, I don't know. These are some of the questions that is going to come up before the GCOM proper. And so we continue to raise these questions as they come up, and let's see whether we get one of the commissioners to talk about
Correct.
that.
But one of the things we did promise at the top of the program is to address exactly that. I wish to share this with everyone. So there are there are different types of materials within a polling area, within a polling station. And these include what is being called as sensitive materials, like the ballots, the SOPs, the lists, the ink, and some other stuff like that. And there are the non-sensitive matters, like the signs, the documents, the poll book, the envelopes, and so forth. Now, the ballots, the SOPs, the ink, the list, those things go into the ballot boxes. The non-sensitive material goes into a poll bag, quote unquote, a bag, a pouch that they have to put it in. Now, at the close of poll, whether you accept it or not, there is a situation where people mix up, and some of the things that should have gone into the boxes are excepting for the ballots, of course, because the ballots can only go through the aperture. But some of the things that ought to have been placed at the end of the day into the box are in the bag, and some that is in the bag may be in the box. That doesn't mean that these things are not present and they're non-existent and they have gone to Mars. At the end of the day, both the box and the bag are returned to the returning officer and eventually to the CEO. All of these so-called missing stuff, Leonard, I wish to repeat, all these missing stuff are in the possession of the CEO. Comes back to what you and I have been talking a month ago. GCOM, I feel sorry for Miss Ward. She comes out, she faces the press, and she doesn't have answers to many of the technical questions. And GCOM's officers refuse to face the press, whether it's the CEO or the chairman. They don't meet the press. Fortunately, we have Mr. Alexander and Mr. Gunraz that have been happy to come and face us, but they can only bring their opinion, their side. So all of this thing about missing POs and missing folios and missing this, it's not that it's gone to Mars or it flew, as one politician said, from one region to another region in the air. Let's get Mr. Lowenfield and ask him, where are these materials? Have you checked? Have you emptied all of this stuff available? And get to the bottom of it. It's easy to say, and I wish to say something else. Look, invariably we have to come back, because hadn't Mingo do what he did, had Mingo done that dastardly act, we wouldn't have been here.
Absolutely. And so
Leonard, one more thing I'll say. A politician used these words this morning. He said, diseased and obnoxious. I'm not going to put you on the spot. Could you care to hazard a guess what he was describing as diseased and obnoxious.
Politician?
He was this, yeah, a politician said in reference to something being diseased and obnoxious. You know what? He was talking about the missing folios and the missing PO. No reference to the declaration of Mingo that was signed by Miss Lawrence. And this was Harman saying that this morning. Those are words he used. So the people are very, they're very picky on identifying their concerns, and that's their right. But for the people of Guyana, we have to look at everything. And I say everything. If the PPP is found guilty of something, we are going to call them out as we call out anyone else.
Yes, and so if you now join us, elections and COVID-19 watch, you can call us on 226-7453, 226-7453, or WhatsApp, SMS us on 622-222. There's a caller online. Good afternoon, caller. You on the air?
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I call regarding this exam that will be writing for the grade 6 children.
Yes.
I have my son will be sitting at the exam, and he has a lot of complications as health-wise. And I don't feel he will be comfortable wearing a mask because he has diabetes is one, he has cancer, and he has something going in his nose. He travels high allergies. So I don't know who put this measure in place to try and go and write the exam with masks.
Have you tried raising that with the authorities there, with the teacher, with the headmistress?
Well, I talked to the class teacher, and she said that's how they're waiting on the GTU. They have a meeting, and today they will bring out whether the children have to go to school or what. I don't know what's going on right now.
Well, we will await and see what GTU says, and we've been asking, but it says we've been asking the Ministry of Education to get on here, but they were waiting until there was a delivery of the orders. I think they would have been talking high-level talks to be able to make that decision. Now that it's here, we'll await what GTU says, and then we're going to come back, because this is one of the major concerns that have been raised. Yog just talked about it, and now you were raising that too.
Okay, well, thank you.
So we're going to raise that. Thank you very much, caller. And so,
Yog. And Leonard, we got to also appreciate it. And this is what we have been saying. We need to cater for all our children, not just, yes, the majority, happily and thankfully, a majority of the children are healthy and without, and the younger people hopefully are not going to display the symptoms. They're going to be asymptomatic. However, it's important to know that when I wear a mask, I don't wear the mask to protect myself, as I wear a mask so that others are protected if I have something. So, and it works the other way too. If somebody talks, then the mist and everything is now going to get into my nostrils and mouth. And the critical thing here to understand, when we wear a mask, I've noticed a lot of politicians too, when they're on air, they cover their mouth only and not their nostrils. The mask has to cover your nose and your mouth, and so it's difficult. I mean, I really am sorry for our children over the next couple of months, and I'm really hoping. And Leonard, if I say this with great humility to Guyanese brothers and sisters, the truth is, if as a people we had all been very conscious of our actions from day one of COVID, we might have been in a better place today. But half of us, we just go about like business as usual. We don't heed any warnings. We don't take control. Of ourselves. We're not being responsible. And today, COVID is still in this country, very much so. And now our children are faced with a challenge.
Well, I'm seeing some reports that's coming out that students of the grade 6 can opt out of writing the exams, but they would be placed in a secondary school closest to the home. As we get the details, there was a webinar, press conference over the internet with the Ministry of the Ministry of Education, and they would have said that there is that possibility. But I'm not privy to it as yet. So as soon as that come out, we're gonna make it known to the people of Guyana. So there's another caller online. Yes, good afternoon, caller. You're there. Apologies for that, caller went. So yes, Yog, some very pertinent points have been raised there. Education, it's a big thing for parents, and rightfully so. We should be concerned about our people. Not a caller.
Absolutely.
Yes. Good afternoon, caller. You on the air?
Hello, good afternoon, you gentlemen. Good afternoon, Mr. Gildarie, Mr. Yo. Oh my God. Since April, the 1st of April or so, I tried to call this number, and thank God I am blessed I get through.
Well, it's Kevin's fault that you didn't get through.
Oh my God. Even to when Kevin, with his, the day when he announced whatever he had to, I want to get into and before I go forward, I want to congratulate you too. I don't know how y'all heart and shift and gone to the right side, because it's not easy, I'm telling you, and I want to say thank you. You know, I only got my clock looking at watching at the time, and Mr. Yo, your program in the night, oh my gosh, last night, I don't know, I can't tell how I was jumping up, I was lying down. Very nice, very nice. Now, I want to say something. I'm an elderly person, and I wear a mask anytime I go out. But the problem is, gentlemen, that elderly people wearing this mask, oh my God, the experience that I'm going through. Now, I think it's Tuesday, I won't mention in the bank, it happened to me outside of the bank lining up. I went to pay phone bill, the same thing, and to go and collect your pension. Now, the attack, to get on this mask, you have to leave the line. Just go into the breeze that way no one here, and just to get a fresh air. Oh, my God, I was listening, and I heard Dr. Yoke mention something about this mask, having it at 24 hours or how many hours. Look, I went to Mr. Gildarie, I live not too far from you, over the other side, right? Mm-hmm. I went to the supermarket there at Bounty, and I want to congratulate. I'm an Indian, but let me tell you, the racism between these politicians I won't say that they're sending it. It's you're the people. We're the people out here you have to ignore. What happened to me in that line? Every time I have to move, take off my gas, and I start shorting a breath. Right? And I went to the northern side, and I was getting this breeze, and I saw an Indian guy passing, and I saw he had on this identification card, ID. And I say, good afternoon or good morning, what time was it? Can you please help me? I have a bill here to go and pay water bill. Please help me, sir, please help me. And he just said, okay, coming back. I said, it's 15 minutes, and I ain't seen this guy. And I start pulling breath, right? Not knowing that it was a Negro female looking at me in the line, and I heard it digitally security, look that woman, the woman gonna fall. But I must say, this lady this female that look after me at the supermarket, I must say, God bless you. And she is a Negro. And there was another one, and they came and they wrapped me up with mentality. This racism, no, and I'm an Indian. You don't look at the person, her hair is twist, or his hair is twist. And an Indian, don't look at that. You look after your brothers and sisters. And I must say, thank you, what they have done for me. The Lima Claw, oh my God, they were so very helpful for me. And the attack I was getting, I'm an asthma case. I'm a hypertension. I'm 71 years of age. My fingertips start to get numb. Then I saw someone in a blue shirt. He has to be a supervisor. I must say, thank you, sir. Thank you so much, son. You did a wonderful thing for me. They called the doctor opposite. And when the doctor came, he started to ask me questions. My pressure was normal and so, but he phoned for a taxi, and the taxi brought me. I'm living in Caneville. And I must say, God bless you, 3 people that have helped me at the supermarket in Grove.
Thank you very much, dear ma'am, and thank you. Keep on looking, and I hope that you get better. Take care of your health.
Thank you once again. God bless you too. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Some very uplifting words from that lady there, and I hope that she gets a little better. And Yoga, and you see one of these stories that are coming out, very uplifting, very positive. Let us don't pay attention too much to the politicians. Let us demand that they do.
Let us live as a people. Let us live as a people. Let us learn from our children. When they go to school, they don't care what race and color and so forth you are. They just play together. They learn together.
Yes, of course. So there's another caller online. Caller, good afternoon. You're on the air.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Thank you for your program. And we listen to your program every day, man, but we get a problem in Skellen here.
Skellen, yes.
Yeah, the Skellen Hospital don't have no drugs. The only drugs they have is Panadol. The people go pull teeth, you can't pull your teeth. You go like for do an ultrasound, you cannot do the ultrasound. You go for like for X-ray, you cannot do the X-ray. Not function in the hospital. I don't know if people can do in Skellen here because if you go to Anamaya, you have to spend about $10,000 to be to Anamaya when you go to take out all his bill.
And so you're saying with the dentistry part, somebody did indicate to me yesterday this was indeed
you
so.
get the dentist working at the WHO, now working at the hospital, and $5,000 to pull a teeth there.
Wow. We'll raise this with the authorities over there.
And there is no more dentists around here in Skellen.
Uh-huh.
We had a medics used to pull teeth, but the medics gone overseas, so he now pull teeth more.
Right.
He pull their teeth just for $1,500 to help the poor people. But now hospital and do nothing. When you go on the beer panel, you gotta go buy it.
Or to raise this with the authorities up in Borbis and see whether they could look into this.
Yes. Skellen Hospital is very bad. Any thing have to go to New Amsterdam. Poor people can't afford to go to New Amsterdam. If you go to Anamaya Hospital, you have to pay $2,500 to see the doctor first.
Yes.
So you have to look into that.
Yes, sir. We raise this with the authorities up there.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. And Yog, this is indeed a big issue. We know that there are people working within the public system. Now, we got a problem with if you have to do a little thing privately or so, but you should not be using the hospital times with you being paid by the state, and then you doing your own private thing and then charging people a big no-no. I think there's some ethical issues there too. So there's another caller online there. Yes, good afternoon, caller. You're on the air.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
I must thank you all for this program, and it is very interesting.
Could you turn down the volume of your radio, please?
It's very interesting to know what you are bringing to the people. You keep democracy alive for us. That's what I can be able to thank you for. But I like to make a comment.
Sure.
That yesterday that Mr. Craig make a statement. He said that on the March 3rd, they have many discrepancy record with the agent give them, but then don't put it forward as a complaint. Why they don't put it forward? Because what I can able to see and figure out is that they have the plan to rig election before the election. So they try to keep it out and see that they push through Mingo tabulation to see that they got swearing the president. But that backfire on them and the pressure too much that they can't do it. And the next comment too is that you know that when you have sports people in the world, if they do illegal things, they are being banned, they are being suspended, they are being fined for it. But that's what they do, not affect the people. They affect themselves and the sports. Today we have politicians, as we know, or we all know, we are conscious to know that PPP won the election. And you see Mingo and his Bison try to rig election. They're supposed to be charged for treason. That's how I see it. They're supposed to be charged for treason, trying to overthrow a legal government. I don't know what the opinion of that. Thank you very much and keep up the good work.
Thank you very much, dear. Yog, I'm not sure whether you want to respond to that.
Yeah, we're all concerned. And I guess, to that caller, people from both sides of the political divide are concerned. What is important in this all is that we must rise beyond just being loyal to a political party and assess whether what we are hearing and what we are seeing is truth or we are told that it's truth. And I think that's what has become a definitive feature of a lot of our people in these elections, Leonard. Their loyalty has made some people say absurd and continue to say absurd things, whereas generally most people are saying, listen, we see the scampishness where it is, we called it out where it is, and we want to move on. Let's move on. Let's have those who held this nation at ransom responsible, And I agree. I am forthrightly calling every day that whoever has prolonged this election from March 4th to now, to make this nation waste $9 billion, well, part of that $9 billion, and to put us through all this agony when we could have been focused on COVID and education of our children and other stuff. Those people are the gentleman is right. Treasonous might better describe their actions.
Absolutely, dear. So we are in day 31. We're in the 95th day since elections was held on March 2nd. And so we have about 3 days, 4 days thereabouts for the recount, the national recount at the Artichon Convention Center to be completed. And so what we have in there is an indication. I think it's a foregone conclusion now, based on a couple of people that we spoke with, that there may be a court case that is looming. In the meantime, as of yesterday's figures, the People's Progressive Party is leading by about 7,000, but then they are heading to the East Coast where the bulk, the People's Progressive Party is set to have their stronghold. So those figures, the People's Progressive Party believes that they're going to rise. So there's where we are at. I think there's another caller. Caller, good afternoon. You're in the air. Yes.
Hello.
Yes, you're in the air.
Thank you.
Yes, you're in the air.
Yeah, I from Essequibo, right?
Yes, sir.
And I noticed a list come out in Kaiju News a couple of days back, right? But on names that out of the country and stuff. You know?
Yeah. Speak up a little because we can barely hear you there.
Yeah, I noticed from a list come out in Kaiju News the other day, about 2 days back, right?
Yes, sir.
I am a village from Tapuya on the Essequibo Coast, Amarinda village.
Yes.
You know what was very surprising to me? I saw my niece name on that list. She was out of the country on the 2nd of March. And she was one of APNU agents at the police station in Tapuya. I don't know where to get this thing from.
Maybe if she could give us a call on Dog and Culture News immediately after this, and we could probably give her a call because we're trying to populate that list. Out of the 172, I think 24 persons would have come out and say, "Wait a minute, we were in Guyana on March 2nd, so this something is wrong with this list here."
Yeah, I don't know because he left Guyana for the past 7 years.
Right. So we would like to hear that, and so maybe immediately after this we could let the person give us a call, and we could probably take it from there.
Well, I got contact and get the phone number, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Yog, I'm getting tired there, and so
that's number 25, right? And that's voluntary information. You didn't have to do any hard work there, Leonard.
Well, there's a Department of Public Information statement that is coming out now. What did you say, Yog?
Department of Political Information.
You come up with these different things differently. I don't know what to say to the people. Close to 90,000 votes affected due to electoral fraud. Harmon. And they're saying that he would have made a statement to the media that 90,000 votes would have been affected due to electoral fraud. And this is a former Director General of the Ministry of the Presidency. He was at the time addressing the media outside the Artichon Convention Center, where the recount of the vote cast on March 2nd is undergoing. Harmon said that he has made it clear to the Guyana Elections Commission that they must provide answers to the people of Guyana. Yesterday, I asked the Elections Commission to respond to the concerns which was raised by us, and that affects all of Guyana, concerning these people who were overseas and voting, the dead voters, the disciplined service voters, which they have not told us anything about, he said. Harmon disclosed that he's requested an answer from the elections body by the end of the day, since this phase of the exercise will come to an end very shortly, and a clear position from the Commission on that particular issue must be had. Yog?
Mm-hmm. Well, Leonard, I tell you what, I hardly go to that website or that Facebook page for the Department of Political Information, because all you find there is a chorus. That's a bunch of chorus persons there. All they're doing is parroting whatever some politicians say. They're not representing the taxpayers at all. They're not representing. Look, it's not just APNU+AFC is the only stakeholder in these elections. Mr. Harman is not the only face in these elections. Everybody, including the newer parties, have been stakeholders in these elections, and they need equal space for you to be of any respect. So there is absolutely none. I mean, but tell me, isn't it the same thing? Department of Political Information was the only entity that congratulated President Granger for being lasting 5 years in office.
But you know, in life, you must have some time for laughter, and you must have some time to have fun and smile a little. It does the face good, the muscles and everything. So what we have here today, going forward, not to be distracted by Yog's Department of Political Information, is that we have had this morning 242 boxes. This is 10% of the 2,339 boxes. Is thus roughly 10% that's left to be recounted. So it's expected that should be done by Sunday, and with the tabulation process or so, let's give it a couple more hours. Monday, everything's supposed to be over with. June the 8th, you would recall there was an order, there was an addition which gave until June the 13th for the entire process to be wrapped up. And by June the 16th, the latest, for a declaration to be made. Now, we would have heard from Rhonda from the TCI, the presidential candidate from the TCI, one of the parties which would have participated in these elections, and she would have indicated that let's say you finish on Monday, there's about a week, 5 days or so before June the 13th, in which several things could happen, and she's expecting that they could be court cases. I think we could say it's a foregone conclusion. There's another caller.
Right. Leonard, just quickly, let me say this. Go on.
Yes.
Go on. The call is on.
Good afternoon, caller. You're on the air.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
I calling just now. Right? Remember, I don't feel person, and that is why he says ask questions. I calling just now, and we're saying that what GCOM should do is swearing the rightful winner, and the APNU should go to the court with a petition, right? Arguing these claims.
Who's saying that? Who's saying that?
I called before calling us.
Okay.
I was listening to the program all the time.
Yes, sir.
Now, in all fairness, right? This is my opinion. In all fairness, if we get a system, or we get a system going on, like this recount, and the main reason for getting this recount is because they want a transparent election at the end of the count. Yes. Now, if during the count, you're finding all these deficiencies during the count, so much allegations forming that this or that, do you think in fairness that the GCOM chair could swear in anybody, whether the TDP or the APNU? I don't feel that it's she wouldn't. If I was the chairman, I could not have swear in nobody, because if I swear in the APNU, PDP is going to say they got robbed. And if I swear in the PDP, APNU going to say it is not fair because it got fraud. And any system that's supposed to be fair ain't supposed to have no fraud. Because if I get a system, right, and as I say, if I get $10 million in the bank, and one day they make a raid at my house, and they find I got 1 ounce of cocaine in my house, they're going to confiscate every cent I got. They would never say I got me money in the bank by fair means. They're going to say that I get it by cocaine. So it means if it's one fault, they get within this election, it could never be transparent. You don't have to get 100 fraud. You don't have to get 10,000 fraud. One fraud supposed to disqualify the whole system, because according to the law, he said one of the greatest invention in this world is the law. And anybody find frauding, the law should deal with it. And I feel that if these people claim that they get fraud, as long as they can prove it, it's supposed to be dealt with. And I don't think in fairness that the GCOM should make a declaration on no side, because the election is not transparent.
So I have a question for you, sir. So if they don't declare, what should be the shape of the government meanwhile another election is being held?
Well, in my opinion, this was in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not making a decision, or you can't swear in nobody, let me just say you can't swear in nobody because it is not a fair process. It means that the president of the day should keep in office until another election comes, because you can't take nobody and put there. You got to keep the president in office of the day. You got to keep in office the president of the day. He got to keep running things until another election is called. Because
and the president and all the current ministers, right?
I ain't saying I don't know many ministers, but what I say, if PP was in charge and something like this happened, the PP would have to be in power until another election call. Whoever is the president of the day have to be in power. Because remember, this process is not transparent, and transparency is what we're looking for. And they can come back to the same thing, because in the first count, it wasn't transparent because they claimed Mingo rap, Mingo fraud. They call it Mingo, Dingo, Mingo, Lingo, I can't even call it the man. Now, let the system throw behind the back, because they're dealing with the system no more. They get a recount. And if the recount is not fair, it means the process still is not fair, even though they get a recount. So they cannot make a declaration if it is not fair.
Okay.
On either side, no side, they can't make a declaration.
But sir, there is allegations of fraud from both sides. There is no proof of fraud. All that is happening is that
as long as they can find proof for these allegations, as long as they can find proof, whether it's both sides got the allegation and they can find it, they find proof about it. If the APNU fraud and the PP fraud, it means that fraud is both sides. I mean, you cannot declare a winner because both sides fraud. That means the system is not transparent.
But then one side shouldn't benefit from its fraud then. You cannot, none of the sides, neither should the current government, if they are proven to have been fraud, should benefit from the fruits of their fraud.
So who do you think should be benefit? Who do you think should be running
That's what I'm asking you. That's what because you are making the proposition, I'm asking you.
I tell you, in my opinion, I feel the president of the day should continue running until another election. But you said it wouldn't be fair. So I ask in your opinion, what do you think should happen after that?
I think that I would want to listen to whatever the international observers are saying, whether the international observers, because at the end of the day, it's the international observers don't have a horse in the game. They have certainly backed the current government in many, many things, as they have been against the PPP in the past for many things and backed them for many other things. So I would want to say if the OAS, if the CARICOM observer says, look, we agree there are problems here, but let's go ahead and have a swearing in. I think I'm going to go with that. If Madam Claudette Singh says, look, I have run these elections, and sir, Claudette Singh is on record saying the elections were okay. So having somebody stand up to say there are 140 names, and having Lewis now say there's 172 names, and having 24 persons now come say, no, those lists are wrong. Who's wrong? Who is right? Only the courts can now prove whether these elections were defrauded.
Well, that is what I'm saying. The election is fraud from the inception, because the claim Mingo had a fraud from the inception. 2 times Mingo make a declaration, the claim out 2 times it was fraud. So they call for recount. And as the recount going, a lot of allegations.
No, but hold on. If Mingo's fraud is proven, the people who benefit from Mingo's fraud should not continue to benefit from it.
But nobody in benefit from Mingo fraud, because nobody in benefit because the president is swearing. That's why they got to this recount.
No, but you refer that if Mingo committed a fraud, I mean, if Mingo's fraud did not go challenged, some persons would have benefit. Similarly, if the PPP committed a fraud, it cannot be allowed to benefit from a fraud. Nobody must benefit from their fraud. But I think the bottom line here is I would like to see, and everybody has said, let us wait. The GCOM chairman has the authority, the laws behind her. She knows what to do, and the international observers are certainly speaking out.
But I feel, this is just my opinion, right? I feel in my opinion, right? In my opinion, everybody got their own opinion. In my opinion, I see down the line what is going to happen with this thing. Because in this thing, it's not going to get, nobody will be swearing in this. The GCOM is not going to swear nobody. She will call this election nullified, and they're going to call for new elections. When is it, I don't know, but they're going to call for new elections. And somebody has to be in charge until the next election. I don't know who can be in charge, but somebody would have to be in charge. But she wouldn't make no declaration on either side.
Thank you.
That is my opinion.
All right. When you go off here, must listen to what Mr. Alexander said last night. He said you can only nullify something or void something that has already been declared.
Yes,
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, the caller, and interesting discussion. And of course, Yog, we have to be very tolerant. We have people from different sides giving their thing, and it's our radio program here in which we, as long as within good taste and everything, We have that discussion on it. So thank you very much for that, caller. You're entitled to your own opinion. I agree
Absolutely.
with you.
And certainly a lot of people share that view. In fact, a senior member of the society was on air in another radio station saying that there are three outcomes: one, PPP win; two, APNU win; and three, no declaration. And I think, we asked Alexander last night, and he is returning next week, Tuesday. We'll certainly ask him again. And, if Commissioner Gunraj comes on tonight, we are going to certainly ask him in Room 592 as to whether that is a likelihood that GCOM will not make a declaration. But I think everybody we have asked has said the chairman has one role, and that is to declare these elections.
Absolutely. So very quickly, this evening you're in room 592, beginning at 7:30 p.m. sharp, and we have brought the show now from 1 hour to 1.5 hours because a lot of persons have been calling in us. Who are the guests that we have this evening?
This evening, we have invited the private sector observers because they have been out there saying that it's impossible for you for you to be impersonated. It's impossible to vote twice. They have said that all of these objections and observations raised, they do not put much credence to it. So tonight we want to grill Mr. Jerry Gavaya and Nicholas Degu on. They are the private sector observers at the ACCC. We want to grill them as to what these observations are, what's their view of these observations, and how can the people take an interpretation from that in terms of what's going to happen in the next 3 to 4 days.
Thank you very much there, Dr. Yog Mahadeo, myself, Leonard Gildarie, Elections COVID-19 Watch. I know a couple persons have been calling us on 6222222. That's only for WhatsApp, but we're going to try to figure out a way how we could get the callers from the cell phone, WhatsApp, onto the system. It's not that very good. But in the meantime, don't call on the 6222222. We're going to be back with you tomorrow, hopefully. We're trying to introduce a Saturday program because of the entire elections recount. But in the meantime, join us 7:30, room 592 this evening with Dr. Yog Mahadeo and myself, Leonard Gildarie. Have a pleasant rest of the day, and thank you for joining us.